since 1973.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to tonight's meeting. This is the 6th business meeting of the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs. We know the weather outside is a little bit stormy and a lot of storms going through the area, so please be careful on your way home. Tonight, our invocation will be led by Ms. Drew Terry and the Pledge of Allegiance by Director Becca Clark. Please rise.
Just as we have celebrated new beginnings and a new birth, we now see the awakening of nature. We are a blessed people to have such a wonderful place to live and work. Thank you for our freedom and especially for those who protect it. Give new answers and solutions to our city government and management to solve problems that may arise. Thank you for the different talents and the gifts of people in our government. May they be used for the betterment of our city. Lord, keep our schools and especially our children and our city in your safety and care. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this meeting to order, and I'd like to have a roll call, please.
Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Williams. Here. Garcia.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or any items to be moved from consent agenda to new business? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
A motion to approve by Director Clark, seconded by Director Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Agenda is approved. Consideration and approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting on March 20th, 2018. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Minutes approved by Director Garcia, seconded by Director Williams. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. We have a couple proclamations and then a guess of the mayor. Our first proclamation is the National Service Day recognition presented to Dorothy Brennan, Assistant Director, and that proclamation will be read and presented by Director Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet city needs, and whereas participants address the most pressing challenges facing our cities and nation, from educating students for jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families to providing health services and helping communities recover from natural disasters. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. Whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. I believe that's I just got this for the first time. That's a repeated sentence. Now, therefore, I, Pat McKay, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim April 3rd, 2018 as National Service Recognition Day. in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city and thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on this 3rd day of April in the year of our Lord 2018. Pat McCabe, Mayor.
Dorothy, come on up in your group.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I thank you, Pat, for signing this. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And I want to just say, as a member of the board of the Area Agency on Aging, it is an honor to present this proclamation.
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Keith Keck of the American Red Cross in Garland County to come forward along with other volunteers of the American Red Cross. We have a proclamation to read and present to them. Now, I'll read that. Whereas the American Red Cross saw a record-breaking year in 2017 of challenging domestic and international response efforts, through the support of its volunteers, in just 45 days, the Red Cross responded to 6 of the largest and most complex disasters of 2017, including back-to-back hurricanes, the deadliest week of wildfires in California history, the horrific mass shooting in Las Vegas. In addition, the Red Cross responded to nearly 50,000 home fires in 2017, providing casework assistance to help 76,000 families recover. And whereas in Hot Springs, Arkansas, the Red Cross has a long history of helping our neighbors in need. The Greater Arkansas chapter assisted with over 800 local disasters in the past year alone. They installed over 1,600 smoke alarms and reached over 650 households with fire safety information. In our area, the Red Cross handles an average of 450 emergency military calls every year. And whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize and thank the Red Cross volunteers and donors who give of their time and resources to help members of the community. The Red Cross depends on these local heroes to develop help and hope during a disaster. We applaud our heroes here in Hot Springs, Arkansas, who give of themselves to assist their neighbors when they need a helping hand. And whereas across the country and around the world, the American Red Cross responds to big disasters and small. It collects about 40% of the nation's blood supply, provides 24-hour support to military members, veterans, and their families, teaches millions life-saving skills such as lifeguarding and CPR, and through its Restoring Family Links program, connects family members separated by crisis, conflict, and migration. And whereas we dedicate the month of March to all those who support the American Red Cross mission to prevent and alleviate human sufferings in the face of emergencies. Our community depends upon the Red Cross, which relies on donations of time, money, and blood to fulfill its humanitarian mission. And now, therefore, I, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim March 2018 as American Red Cross Month in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I encourage all Americans to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on this 3rd day of April in the year of our Lord, 2018. Signed, Pat McCabe, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick comment here. Just thank you to the City of Hot Springs, from your police department to your fire department, because they are one of the easiest groups to work with. Because we know when they're challenged, something out there, we have a good response, good rapport with them. That can't say that it's across our region here, but we just thank Hot Springs for the support there and all the challenges. You know, I just think of last Tuesday, the night where I was at, and because it was an apartment fire. And some of our volunteers were there, and we're here to respond 24 hours a day, as well as the weather conditions are there to support the people of Garland County as well as across the state of Arkansas. Again, thank you, City of Hot Springs, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Dr. Stephen Harrison and Jonah Parker to the lectern. Well, on their way up, I'm going to make we saw last week on the news that Northwest Arkansas has calculated that the cycling industry, measured something like $137 million impact to their economy. And we have a couple cyclists here today that are going to talk to us, the board, and to the community about a new high school athletic event involving cycling. And Dr. Harrison and Miss Jonah Parker are instrumental in helping get this off the ground. They are actually volunteers giving of their time. Certainly, Jonah, you've seen her kids here a few months back. Steve and his kids are a little small right now and aren't quite into competitive cycling, but they're going to be here shortly. So they're going to talk to us about a new high school sport. Stephen?
So I want to say first, thanks for your time. The group is called National Interscholastic
Cycling Association, and it's NICA. We call it NICA, and our team is NICA Hot Springs. It's a composite team that is not school district specific right now. Perhaps it could be eventually, but right now the goal is to bring anyone, any I shouldn't call them children, but any kids 6th-ish grade and up are welcome to ride with us. It's not designed as a sport where, for instance, like high school basketball, where people go try out and then you cut after the first 15 or whatever. It's very inclusive. It's designed to take kids, if they all they have to do is want to show up, and we will figure it out, whether it be getting a bike, teaching them how to ride a bike. There are kids that have been brought into this program through Little Rock. A friend of mine, Bob Oken, is a coach out there, and he talked about how all they did was work on a kid that literally couldn't ride a bike and got him to ride trails. And the self-confidence that came along with being able to do that was remarkable, is how he put it. And I've seen that in my own son, teaching him, and then, of course, John's kids have done incredible things on bikes, and they're two of the cockiest kids I know. So, no, that's not true. They're really sweet kids.
More work.
So, John has been instrumental. I'm kind of just been working to organize it, to kind of just create the infrastructure to make it happen. What John has been really instrumental in is, number one, she attended most of this stuff with her boys last year, so she's seen it really is, I'm not understating this or overstating this, a pro level event. I mean, it's as nice as any bike race you'll go to in the region, and it provides, and the kids they come into the event. They're responsible for, on the front end, they show up, they set up the tents, they get everything running, everybody races, and then on the back end, they're responsible for breaking down the tent, and then everybody goes home. So it's really an inclusive, community-oriented event, and John has been really important with regard to recruiting people, recruiting particularly girls. We're girl shy, frankly. We just not our team. Actually, we're doing pretty well because she keeps finding more and more to show up. But cycling does not have as many women in it as we'd like to see. So it's working hard to be inclusive of girls and bring them into the fold too.
Can you outline what the season looks like? How many events, and do we have one here in Hot Springs?
We can do all those things. In the fall, they'll have 4 events. There'll be 3 in Northwest Arkansas, because that's kind of where NICA started for Arkansas. Not kind of, that is where NICA started for Arkansas.
2 Northwest Arkansas.
Is it 2?
One
Okay.
here and one kind of central, like Russellville, is kind of what they're thinking, but it's not nailed down.
But Cedar Glades does have an event, so we're bringing NICA here. Something like 200 riders, dozens of families. That in and of itself, having a NICA event here will have an important impact on Hot Springs for that weekend. And a big part of that happening is things like the Northwoods project. There's going to be a NICA, the rules for NICA races are different than for a traditional mountain bike race, and so you almost have to modify a trail or even build one to accommodate that, and that the Northwoods is accommodating that for us.
Actually, my boys and I last week went out with Joey Klein from IMBA and flagged the NICA loop, which is about a 3-mile loop, which they specifically designed just for NICA races.
So you can expect a race here every year is the point. This is not going to be a small impact on our community. And then a big part of the $137 million was a health impact related to the amount of improved or lowered medical costs associated with a cycling community. And grab them young, man. You get them to love cycling early or getting outside, whatever it is, and that'll continue to improve for our community.
Great.
Great. So build it and they will come.
And they are, in droves.
Great. Any questions of Stephen or Ms. Parker?
Dr. Harrison, where will the training be held?
That's a good question. So a lot of it will just be going to Cedar Glades right now because we can start practices in July. It'll be going to Cedar Glades right now and riding. But as we develop, particularly getting involved with schools, it can be done right there on the school property. So that it's better for kids that don't have a way to get, to us. So that's what's happening in Little Rock, is they'll bring bikes and they'll just set up on next to the football fields. I mean, literally riding around football practice is happening and then bike practice is happening. So
you don't need a trail. There's plenty of things that can be done, skills clinics that can be done anywhere, and that can be set up and teach kids skills that they need on bikes that will translate to the trail. So
Yeah.
The goal is we're going to find a way. If the kid wants to ride a bike and join us. Oh, and then one other thing I want to mention is in part of the inclusivity, there are teams you get scored, somebody wins, and that's how it should be. But everybody on the team does get to ride. So you don't have kids that show up and work hard and learn to ride a bike and don't get to physically feel what it feels like to ride that track and get cheered on and all those things.
And at the same time, they can be on the team and they can practice with the team. And if they decide that they don't want to compete, that's okay too.
Oh, yeah. They show up race day and do everything they want.
Good.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll hear from Mr. Frazier on the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, board. I'm pleased to announce this year that for the 18th consecutive year, Hot Springs has been designated a Tree City USA. And I want to thank especially the tremendous amount of hours, record keeping, tree pruning, doctoring, and general right-of-way maintenance carried out throughout the year by our employees and management staff who help make that happen every year. So thank you for that. Also, last week we had a tragic apartment fire that resulted in a fatality, and I wanted to, even though it was a very tragic event, it could have been far worse than it was. And our fire department got there in 3 minutes and 46 seconds. And I just want to thank them for that tremendous response. And when they got there, they went into action and saved a lot of people from what could have been the equal fate for them. So I just really appreciate them. They're not here tonight, but we thank them as well.
Yes.
Speaking of the fire department, they've rescheduled a ribbon cutting and open house for the new fire training grounds from 1 to 3 p.m. on Sunday. It'll be April 8th at 517 Vernell Street off of Spring. The public is welcome to attend. It's a family-friendly event. I'm going to be there with my daughter and looking for a fire truck. And firefighters will be on hand to demonstrate multiple uses of the $500,000 Carilla Fire Training Simulator. There will be tours of the simulator, and nearby smokehouse and training facility will also be provided. For information, you can call 321-6971. And then I want to congratulate my assistant city manager, Mr. Spicer, here to my right. Lance has been recently reappointed to a 4-year term by Governor Asa Hutchinson to the Arkansas Fire and Police Pension Review Board. So if you got a complaint about your pension or a question about it, you know who to talk to. So he was also, it's important to note, he was elected by fellow board members to the position of vice chairman. So congratulations again, Lance.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Very good, thank you. This time we'll entertain announcements by directors of upcoming events. Any directors have an upcoming event they'd like to make the community aware of?
I have, Mayor.
Okay,
If I can find it.
Director Jones.
Yeah. On April 21st, on Saturday, the Gateway Community Association, excuse me, will sponsor the Kenneth Adair Annual Memorial Concert. The tickets are $25 per person, and it will be held in the historic Malco Theater for a change. Last year, we were at the church, the Methodist Church, and I'm selling ads. You know who you are, who I'm talking to. So remember that I asked you to buy an ad, Mayor. Don't put your head down. The ads are $100, $50, and $30, and I would appreciate just one little ad. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier, you mentioned the weather and some weather alerts. I just like to remind everyone that if you haven't signed up for the Code Red, because for my neighborhood, I received the thunderstorm warnings on my phone. You can have phone calls, and it's easy to sign up. And if there's a problem, someone in the city is always glad to help you sign up. And that's a very good service that's offered through the city of Hot Springs. And I appreciate it.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, our hardline phone and our cell phones were going off almost in unison this
Right.
evening before the meeting. Any other upcoming events? I have a couple items I'd just like to make mention of. The City of Hot Springs will be participating in the National Mayor's Campaign for Water Conservation during the month of April. And I'd ask all citizens in the Hot Springs and Hot Springs area to sign up at www.mywaterpledge.com. It takes about 5 minutes. There are about 3 or 4 screens that you can complete. Different pledge items that would indicate that you do your best to conserve water and trash items, and just kind of keep your trash down and that. And you just put your name of the city you're in, and it will kind of go into our so-called community file. And that we participated a few years back. We want to do it again this year, and I'm always amazed when the residents of Hot Springs put their minds to it, how much we do conserve and how much trash we take to the recycling that's appropriate and doesn't go into our landfill. So number of areas there that we can conserve. It's just not a water conservation, even though that's the title. There's other areas with recycling that's very important as well. Mr. Frazier and I guess it was a week ago Monday, attended the governor's economic initiative rollout. Gary Troutman, with the president of the Chamber and Metro Partnership, was in attendance as well. He's asked communities to join in with this initiative. It is a voluntary basis, but it really focuses on the community's readiness to entertain economic development or entertain new business entry into their community. And with that, we will be completing and working with Mr. Troutman and the Chamber and Metro Partnership on assessing our community's readiness, both in the area of the organization in charge of economic development, personnel assigned to economic development, our workforce readiness, our infrastructure. Those are some of the things that fall under the 4 pillars that he had talked about. And I think obviously he's taken a very proactive role in trying to ensure that we as a whole state are ready to accept and entertain new business, rather than just saying we need new business, we need new jobs. Well, we got to demonstrate our ability to ensure that our community is ready, and that when somebody knocks on our door, we can tell them what we have available for them. And so we're willing to take that pledge and fill out that readiness. And there is a certification that we'll receive from the governor's office for each community that is, I guess, gets a due pass on their readiness. And if we have an area of weakness, we'll work on it. But we'll be working on it as a community, not just as a local government. So that completes my upcoming events. Anybody have anything else before we move on? Very good. At this time, we'll consider the items under consent agenda. Those are generally items of routine nature that do not require individual discussion, and therefore I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Director Williams, Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Consent agenda is approved. I am so sorry. I'd asked the city attorney to make comment on an item, and I'm going to pause here because I've been getting some calls. I know some other directors have been getting calls on individuals making solicitations in the roadway. And we know that we have a number of people making solicitations of various kinds. We also have an election season coming up where there'll be a lot of people campaigning on corners and that. And I'd like Brian to kind of address that issue and kind of where the city's at and the concern that we have with public safety.
Mayor, there is an upcoming election for some of you on the dais this evening, even this fall, but also this May we'll be having some primaries. City of Hot Springs, as the board's aware, does have an ordinance that prohibits the physical interaction between a vehicle and the occupant, between the occupant of any vehicle that's in operation on a public roadway and a pedestrian. And so if you or any of your volunteers or other candidates out there, their volunteers are interested in campaigning in the public fora, sidewalks, things of that nature are obviously legitimate areas in which to express that free speech, but you cannot have physical interaction with the occupant of a vehicle that's being operated in the roadway. We've had some challenges to that lawsuit, primarily from an individual who has alleged that it impedes his ability to panhandle. And so panhandling in and of itself is lawful. It's not illegal to panhandle. In fact, the federal courts have ruled that it is protected free speech under the First Amendment, just like election activities, just like religious activities, just like charitable donations. But our ordinance does not attempt to try to prohibit panhandling. It simply prohibits the conduct that occurs when a pedestrian attempts to interact physically with an automobile in operation in a roadway. So tell your folks and other candidates out there for these upcoming elections, if that's where they intend to campaign, it's perfectly legal. Just don't have that physical interaction with the vehicles. Yes, ma'am.
Director Garcia.
Your comments are related to public property, the sidewalks, the...
Yes.
What about private property such as shopping centers?
Sure, that's an excellent question. Government, is involved in trying to regulate things that happen on public property, and we are prohibited from prohibiting free speech on public property. What happens on private property is up to the landowner, the property owner, the merchant, whoever that might be.
So the owner of that can prohibit panhandling?
It's their private property. They can invite or exclude who they wish.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One year I was out there and the police came and told me to quit talking to people because I was holding up traffic. And I really didn't intend to do that. It was people that I knew was stopping to talk to me, and I talked back to them, and we was holding up the light or something.
Well, you raise a good point. This ordinance also is even-handed with respect to the pedestrian and the motorist.
That's right.
It's prohibited for the motorist to engage in this kind of activity as well, because it does impede the flow of traffic, creates traffic hazards, and endangers the pedestrians as well. So, but ultimately, we'll have all of that decided by the federal court. We do have a jury trial scheduled on that particular case, and that will be the week of August the 27th.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry for kind of getting out of order here. At this time, we'll consider Resolution R-1846, and I'd call upon the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-1846, a resolution designating April 21, 2018 as Free Ride Day for Hot Springs Intercity Transit. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Have a motion to adopt.
So moved, Mayor.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. And we have Kathleen Lambert, Transit Director, to give us an overview.
Thank you, Mayor. Parking your car and riding transit is one way to really help preserve the environment by reducing emissions. So, as the Transit Authority of the City of Hot Springs, we feel that Earth Day, April 21st, is a good day to try to encourage people to use our transit system. So we'd like to provide it as a free ride day. Also, in addition to that, we're going to coordinate with our park system and provide rides all day to Family Park as a special deviation to Route 2. It's an area we already serve, so it's not really going to impede the time of the route or regular passengers doing their shopping or anything like that. But we think it'll be a treat and provide an enticement maybe for some people to take a picnic with their family and do something different. Try transit, head to the park. So we hope you consider that.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions
Mayor.
of Ms. Lambert? Yes.
No, I just have a comment. My car was in the shop last week, and so I used the bus service twice. And one of them was a round trip. I actually walked to Transportation Depot, and so got outbound and inbound. And I want to tell you that it was a really positive experience. People know each other. They greet each other because they're used to seeing each other on the bus. The driver was exceptionally nice. The tall, gray-haired man, Artie or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember his name. But they all thanked him, called him by his first name, and he knew a lot of the riders. And it was just a really good experience, and I'm going to use it more often.
Yes, ma'am. I always say that transit time is your own time. You're not driving, so you can do other things like answer your email, chat with your neighbors, get to know people. That's the beauty of it. And this system here in Hot Springs touches every corner of the city, from where you live to where you may need to work or shop. It's really a very effective system for a pretty decent-sized city. So I'm excited to be working with Hot Springs.
Yeah, the only comment, and I bring this up as a consideration, possibly in the future, is a lot of the riders weren't crazy about the buses that we bought from Little Rock, apparently. That they weren't as nice.
Okay, so recently we bought one bus from Little Rock.
That was the one I was on. Mm-hmm.
That's correct. So the bus that we bought from Little Rock is exactly like the three buses, the Gillig buses that we own. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we're trying to do, because we have such an aging fleet right now, is to get some vehicles that help supplement our fleet while we put in our replacement plan, which we're already working on. So that's kind of the point of doing that. It's not considered a vehicle we're going to have for long term, and it's about the age of the vehicles that we already have. So it's going to rotate into the replacement cycle. But, newer buses, the clean diesel is very effective. They're less expensive than, say, your CNG infrastructure, which we'd have to put in to put CNG vehicles in place like Little Rock has now. For a small system like ours, I think if we replace our vehicles with something similar to what we have, In the clean diesel variety, we're still going to be reducing emissions, and I think the public would appreciate some newer equipment.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Ms. Lambert?
I was going to ask her if that's the day Bill Burr's going to be cooking the hamburgers at Family Park.
I'm not sure about the hamburgers at Family Park, but we're hoping to plan a customer appreciation in June, right near 4th of July.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Do we have any members of the audience signed up? No? Any further discussion amongst the directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll entertain resolution number R1847. I'd ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R1847, a resolution expressing the willingness of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas to utilize state aid street funds for the Fox Pass Road and 7th Street overlay projects. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt, please.
I'll make that motion.
Director Williams, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. And our Denny McFay, Director of Public Works, will give us our overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. The Public Works Department is requesting passing a resolution authorizing the Arkansas Department of Transportation to enter into an agreement with the City of Hot Springs to consider state aid funding to resurface with asphalt 7th Street from Greenwood Street to Emory Street and Fox Pass Road from Park Avenue, Highway 7 to the city limits. This is a 10% local funding with 90% state match. This agreement is necessary for RDOT to move forward with engineering, construction drawings, and bid letting for the project. The City of Hot Springs awarded a portion of the state aid projects is a maximum of $245,241 for the two overlays of these two streets. There are currently funds in the city-state appropriated half-cent sales tax revenue in the Street Division 230 account in an amount of approximately $50,000. And I wanted to take a real quick second and mention a couple of bullets. This half-cent sales tax does a lot of things for the City of Hot Springs, and I wanted to remind the board a few bullets of what that does and for the members of the audience that may be listening tonight. That is a state income tax that the voters voted on. It is collected by the state, and money is turned back to the city. This state aid program that allowed us to have this $245,000 was a new program. They used to have county aid programs. In 2014, the city's become eligible for those same grant assistance. You might remember back in 2014, the city was awarded a $250,000 state aid project for the repaving of golf links. Mm-hmm. So in the last 4 years, we've received right at $500,000 in state aid projects for overlay in the city of Hot Springs with this half-cent sales tax. The other thing that it does for us, we receive about $660,000 a year for road maintenance that only can be spent for street maintenance and cannot be diverted to other funds. This amounts to more than 50% of our annual paving budget as it is. Since 2014, this half-cent sales tax has provided us with more than $3 million in street maintenance and street repairs and overlays. It also has provided an additional $1 million in grant matches that otherwise we would not have been able to apply for. There's item number 20 on the board agenda that will be coming up to you shortly, which is the construction of Plac Placit Street, acceptance of the street for maintenance. This city's cost to construct this street was part of the traffic signal project for West St. Louis and Airport Road. This half-cent sales tax paid all of the city's part of the road construction for the signal, and it also paid 100% of the city's cost of the traffic signal installation project itself. It also provides $50,000 annually in sidewalk repairs throughout the community. It's allowed us to upgrade crosswalk markings and purchase and install the LED pedestrian traffic signs that you see, pedestrian crossing signs that you've seen pop up predominantly in downtown where heavily pedestrian traveled areas are. So I just wanted to bring a couple of bullets of what this tax does for us and how that money comes back into the community and services us right here in the city of Hot Springs. So in conclusion, are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a couple of comments. One is when I had that other job that I held for 16 years, the state aid program was my favorite program. And, Fox Pass is in the county portion of the maintained roads, has more traffic than any other county maintained road. But what I'm particularly delighted in is, of course, the fact that we're doing 7th Street, which is partially in District 3, but most of it is in District 4. That's a major collector street. I drive it all the time myself. I remember, I seem to recall a letter to the editor or two where people were critical of the city for our lack of maintenance on 7th Street. Well, for those naysayers, of course, we know we do a better job than what we're given credit for, but that will be addressed, and I'm just tickled to see this being done. When do you think the work will be done?
I would say in the next probably 90 to 120 days. They have to go through the bid process. I don't have a bid letting date for that yet, so I'm guessing another 30, 35 days for that to happen.
And that's led through the highway department, not through us?
Yes, sir. It's all handled through the highway department. They handle the contract. They handle the inspections and everything with this.
Very good. Any other questions of Denny?
I forgot to mention that the bid letting for that traffic signal is tomorrow with the highway department for West St. Louis and Airport Road.
Very good. Thank you.
Good report.
Any citizens signed up?
No, sir.
Any further discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll entertain resolution number R1848. Ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1848, a resolution approving a substantial amendment to the 2014-2018 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
That's a move.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Davidson.
Director Davidson. Thank you. And Director of Planning, Kathy Selman, will give us an overview.
Thank you, Mayor. The Department of Housing and Urban Development requires of each of its entitlement cities receiving community development block grant funds that a 5-year strategic planning document be put together to identify housing, community, and economic development, short and long-term needs, objectives, priorities, and goals. That document also outlines strategies and timetables for achieving the objectives. HUD requires that you put this plan together looking ahead 5 years, but then requires that in the 5th year you go back and you correct all of those things that you thought you knew. So those things that in 2013 we thought we were pretty sure about doing, timelines, outcomes, expenditures, this is our opportunity now, our mandatory opportunity, to correct those. And so we have this little document, 190 pages, and I really want to recognize our community development administrator, Michelle Sestilli, for all of the work that goes into this type of a document. It is very, very specific. And this is not just 190 pages of big font. This is tiny stuff, and there's a lot of information that has to be checked and double-checked, and it has been. So what it is that we're doing here is looking at the amount of funding that we actually got, because we never know that ahead of time, aligning our goals and accomplishments. We do the best we can when we're looking forward, but now we're sure of what happened, and those things have been changed in this document. There's a little bit of housekeeping with regard to data entry. But before we get into what it is that we're doing tonight, I want to make sure that everybody here and at home knows what we're not doing. This amendment is not a comprehensive update to the Consolidated Plan. This doesn't fund any specific proposed project or program. That is all done through our annual action plans. The amendment doesn't alter any funds that were previously authorized. It doesn't change any objectives. It doesn't update census data. This is the one that bugs me the most. Spelling and grammar errors cannot be corrected. So anything that was in there in 2013, I'm sorry, it's still there. Organizations and programs that don't exist anymore have not been removed, and organizations or programs that have been created since 2013 cannot been and have not been added. So this amendment does include an estimated 2018 grant allocation of $360,000. We are still waiting to hear what our allocation will be for 2018. Your Community Development Advisory Committee has worked with community groups to set up a plan for how that money will be spent. That will come to you very soon, we hope, in an annual action plan for 2018. But this amendment has to be approved by HUD before a 2018 annual action plan and requests for release of funds can be submitted. The annual action plan is going to be due within 45 days of the allocation announcement. Well, we don't know when that's going to be. If you get to August 16th and you still don't have an allocation announcement, this has to be submitted anyway. And failure to submit an adopted annual action plan to HUD by their deadline would automatically result in forfeiture of future funds. So this is a very important amendment. We're requesting the board's approval to proceed with submission of the amendment with that estimated $360,000 allocation for 2018. But we're asking that if it's within 10% up or down, that we be authorized to submit our annual action plan based upon tonight's consideration. So that would be any amount from HUD between $324,000 to $396,000. We would not come back to you with a request to consider the moving forward for 2018 funding. If it is outside those parameters, we will be back, and we will give you all of the details that go along with that. So this review has been reviewed by the public. It's been available online and in hard copy in the planning office since February 26th of 2018. Legal notices were placed in the Sentinel Record. We have included it in the weekly City Highlights publication, and no written comments were received. The Community Development Advisory Committee, at their advertised meeting on March 1st, considered the substantial amendment that's before you tonight and recommended unanimously, voting 4-0, that you adopt this with the contingency plan, with the allocation estimated at $360,000. So they are recommending your approval of the resolution tonight, accepting the substantial amendments.
Very good. Any questions of Director Selman? Director Garcia.
First, a comment, as you stated for Mr. Stilley, that this is extremely tedious work to meet all of the requirements of the federal government in these reporting. It's extreme detail, and it's an excellent job of covering everything in our community that's required of this. So kudos for that.
Thank you very much.
And I know it's 190 pages, but it's packed full of excellent detail information. So when the 2018 annual action plan comes forward and that recommendation's made, is data that's included in here used
Yes.
for those priorities? Because maybe I had read it before and forgotten it, but it mentioned a couple of areas that were in the disproportionate greater need I believe was the description, on Valley Street to Illinois Street, and Estelle Street to Hudgens Circle, and then the area in Cedar Street, Saby Street, and Daly Terrace to Pine Street. So they're north and kind of south of here.
Mm-hmm.
So are those areas looked at for potential projects?
Yes, this document is used when the Community Development Advisory Committee looks at applications that come in. This document is one of the key pieces of information that they use in prioritizing project applications.
So, good. So any neighborhoods can apply, but the priorities are already established based on all of this data that's already been gathered.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Again, excellent work.
Thank you.
Ms. Silman, I know that the substantial amendment is a term of art that HUD makes you use.
Yes, it is.
In 2013, when you prepared your 2014-2018 consolidated plan, you were somewhat guessing going forward. Is it okay for us to think of it ourselves as a reconciliation or an internal audit
Yes.
of what actually has happened in prior years?
Yes, that would be an accurate description. Thank you.
And Mayor, I might just add, this is a related notice. I got a notice this afternoon late from HUD that Kathy and her staff just completed. HUD does a performance evaluation every year on the program, and you guys, I don't know if you know this, but you got a passings grade, and congratulations from the HUD regional office to the City of Hot Springs for performance in administering the program and the federal funds. I really want to thank you and Michelle and Lance and Mike, Scott, and others who have made this work, and also our Community Development Advisory Committee as well for all their hours.
Yeah, it takes a whole lot of people to make this thing run.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Good
Thank you.
report, Kathy.
Thank you, Director.
Any citizens sign up? No? Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. The resolution is adopted. Our final two items of action tonight is consideration of ordinance number 01809. And I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
I'll make that motion.
We got a motion by Director Williams.
Second.
Seconded by Director Clark. All in favor of suspending the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion's approved. And we have Denny McFate, Director of Public Works,
I
back.
need to read it for you
Oh,
first,
I'm
Mayor.
sorry. Why don't you read it first?
I will, but I would like to get some clarification from the city clerk. The agenda mentions this as ordinance 1809. The printed version is 1819. Do you
It
know?
would be 1819.
Okay. This is ordinance number 01819, an ordinance accepting Lily Street, Sunflower Street, and Gardenia Place, located in the City of Hot Springs Golf Links Garden Subdivision as a city street and for other purposes. I conclude your reading, Mayor. If you would now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
We'll entertain a motion to adopt.
So
Please.
moved.
I'm sorry, Director Clark, was it? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Director Jones. And now we'll hear from Denny McFate. Denny ran up and he kind of threw me off.
Sorry about that, Mr.
Director
Mayor.
of Public Works.
Thank you, sir. Members of the board. The POA, Property Owners Association, is requesting the city acceptance of the maintenance of the Sunflower Street, Gardenia Place, and Lily Street, which is located in the Golf Links Garden Subdivision. These streets have been inspected and meets all city street specifications, including adequate right-of-way. Therefore, city staff recommends acceptance for maintenance of Sunflower Street, Gardenia Place, and Lily Street, located in Golf Links Garden Subdivision, for city maintenance. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. McFate? No? Thank you very much. Any citizen input? No? Any discussion amongst the directors regarding this ordinance? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Williams,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of tonight is to consider ordinance number 018. What number are we going to have?
10.
Is it going to be 10?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
10, okay. 01810, I need a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
I'll make that motion.
Got Director Williams, seconded by Director Garcia, to suspend the rules and read by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Council, please read the ordinance by title only.
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance 01810, an ordinance accepting Plac Placid Street located in an unplatted subdivision within the city of Hot Springs as a city street and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you would now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Will do. Motion to adopt, please.
So moved.
Director Clark.
Second.
Seconded by Director Garcia. Denny McFate.
Thank you, sir.
It's the Denny McFate show tonight. Director of Public Works.
On August 18, 2015, Resolution 8744 was passed by the board expressing the city's willingness to utilize federal aid monies for the construction of a traffic signal at West St. Louis and Airport Road. On February 21, 2017, Resolution 9046 was passed by the board reserving the Plac Placit Street name. On April 18, 2017, Resolution 9079 was passed by the board approving a contract to construct Plac Placit Street. The construction of this street was completed in the fall of 2017 as part of the proposed traffic signal project at the intersection of West St. Louis and Airport Road. The construction of Plac Placit meets all city street specifications, and therefore staff's recommendation is for the Board of Directors' approval of accepting Plac Placit Street as a city-maintained street. Any
Very
questions?
good. Any questions of Mr. McFate?
This says an unplatted subdivision.
Yes, sir.
Is that the same thing as an unrecorded subdivision, or is that different terminology?
Kathy's already gone. I would say that my thinking is it's not recorded since
Yeah, that's my thought. There are unrecorded subdivisions
Correct.
out there. That's always a dangerous thing. So anyway,
we had the right-of-way dedicated to us for this, and we did record our dedication for
Okay.
the record.
Director Williams, as I understand it, it's actually unplatted as well. This is the Mallory subdivision, and all of that is under one parcel.
Yeah.
it's in one parcel? Okay.
Question.
Director Clark.
It's in my area. Where does the name come from? I'm just curious.
The Maori family requested that name. I don't remember exactly what it stands for. It is a foreign word. It means something like good health or something like that. Good something. Good is the first word. I can't remember the second word. It's been so long. We've been working on this project since 2007. So
I thought it was before my time.
11. Excuse me.
Yeah, before I was on the board. Okay.
Any other questions of Danny? Very good.
Thank you.
Any public input? No? Any discussion or comments from the directors? I would just make one comment. I drive Airport Road, across that intersection every day, and it's a very busy intersection, and those who want to exit St. Louis onto Airport going any which direction is quite difficult. And we're also talking school buses too. So it will slow the traffic down on Airport Road coming into Albert Pike area. So that's all going to be a very good thing. So if there's no further comments, we'll call the roll, please.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. At this time, we'll have Board of Directors' comments. Any board member have a comment? Director Williams?
There's Glenn Barrington. I don't know if any of you have been out to the airport, but the new murals where the passengers arrive coming to Hot Springs is wonderful. That had been really drab, and you really just ought to go out and see it. And I would encourage you to do that. And thank you, Glenn, for your initiative on that.
Director Garcia, did you have your hand up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to, first time I've seen you since you won your award, and I want to extend congratulations to you and the other award winners at the Metro Partnership and Economic Development Awards. That was very good. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Frazier, Mr. Burris, and Mr. Spicer. They do a lot of work for all our neighborhoods and that the public doesn't know about. And they're continuously searching for ways of improvement. And when ideas are brought before them on what can we do to help this neighborhood or that neighborhood, I'm really grateful that you've got ideas, you're open-minded and willing to do all you can to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
I second that.
Director Davidson?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to recognize that I had recently learned that the Park Avenue area, District 1, has the lowest crime rate in the county. And when I first moved here, it was the worst. And I even had a realtor say, "Oh, whatever you do, don't move up on Park." And I thought, she's crazy, because that's exactly where I was headed for. I've found over the years that when you move into a city and you go for the area that's has gone down just a little bit, you can get a bargain. And then as it comes back up, you're going to make money on your house, if you sell it. But this is just to let you know, this is the longest I have ever in my life lived in one property. As a former military brat and rancher's kid, we moved around a lot. But I'm just real pleased that what all has gone on up there. And at the moment, there are very few houses available because so many people are moving up there. And we're really glad. The community itself is changing. We don't have all old white-haired people anymore. So. Thank you.
Very good.
Mayor, to add to that, we've had about 4 houses sold just in the Gateway division off of Pleasant. Yes, and I'm very pleased about that. And in other sections of District 2, people are cleaning up. They're cleaning their lawns and their porches, and if they don't, somebody's getting on to them, and I appreciate that. The code department is really working hard, and they're working with me, and I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Very well. Thank you. Director Clark, any comments? No? All right. Well, this concludes tonight's meeting. We do have some individuals that have signed up for the public commentary that will occur after the adjournment. So, Director Jones, do you
I
have any?
move that we adjourn for the night, Mayor.
Second.
Director Jones, seconded by Director Williams.
Yes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. So for those of you who are going home, be very safe on your drive. We're not certain what the weather is out there. So we are adjourned. Thank you all. Be safe. Three, to be exact.
I heard from Mr. Lewis.